Welcome to Lesson 2 in your Keys to Communication course, The Power of Context. When attempting to forge trust and strong relationships, understanding the context of those who we are engaging is exceptionally important. As we've discussed in the last video on the impact of psychological comfort, people are looking to have their self-opinion validated. It's not about how you make people feel about you that matters, it's how you make them feel about themselves. In order to provide the psychological comfort all humans seek and to communicate most effectively, you must understand their context. Our context and how we see the world through our optic and lens that each of us have are not necessarily good or bad, they just are. Our context is formed by the information that we gain from the environment around us. Things that impact that information is our family, our friends, our social status, our economic status, education, sources of information, our country of origin, and a host of many other things. If you're seeking to build strong, healthy relationships, do not argue the context or judge it in others. This doesn't necessarily mean that you must agree with people, but understanding the context is vital to lower their defenses. This is in line with the old adage that says, walk a mile in someone else's shoes and see what choices and decisions you would make. During my time in the FBI, I interviewed and interacted with many people from all over the world. Different genders, orientations, proclivities in life, morals, and ethical choices. In each of these cases, my ultimate objective was to communicate honestly in order to obtain information to protect the national security of the United States, our NATO allies, and a host of other people. Honest information flow does not require liking someone, but it does help. There are many types of biases as well that we're all subjective to. There's conviction bias. Conviction is where we feel so passionately towards something that we only hear and see things that align with our convictions. We have the appearance bias, where we agree with the environment and people that look the same to us and our surroundings we are comfortable and familiar with. We have group bias, where we form opinions based upon what the group around us is thinking, whether that group is online, in our personal lives, or even from the sources of information we gather. We have blame bias, where we as a group or organization collectively blame individuals for what is going on in our lives and in the world. And we have superiority bias, and this is where we think we're better than everyone else and we know more than everyone else and we have all the answers to the solutions plaguing the world. All these biases impact on how we communicate with others. Each of these biases are also ruled by our ego and most often our own insecurities. For example, a good friend of mine, Jack Barsky, was a deep undercover agent for the KGB during the Cold War. The information and education that Jack was exposed to growing up was vastly different than the information I was exposed to growing up. Jack was born in East Germany at the end of World War II and grew up under the Soviet Union's regime. He was taught in school and by his parents and by all the individuals in his life he was exposed to that the West was evil and that communism would save the world. He was taught that the West supported Nazi and fascism. Jack felt his personal mission was to save the world as a communist and be a great hero of the people. As Jack was trained and later deployed to the United States to subvert our national security, he was exposed to new information and a new context. He slowly learned that what he had been taught about communism and capitalism and democracy in general at a young age was deeply wrong. Jack was also never taught religion growing up and was an atheist. As he got older and new information entered his life, he became Christian. Jack was neither right nor wrong with his belief system when he was growing up. It was merely his context of the information in which he was surrounded by. If you wish to forge strong trust and have great communications, dive deep to understand the context and biases of others without judging them. This is called empathy. Here's an exercise for you to try. For the next week, diversify the information and news that you consume. Not just your favorite news or information channel, but diversify it into many others. For example, if you typically look at Fox News or CNN, try changing and adding maybe BBC, Pravda, or Al Jazeera, as well as a host of others depending on what you have access to. Often I note that the leading headlines in all these organizations is not the same. Sometimes the news differs greatly. The news from overseas differs greatly from the news here in the United States. The context of the people outside the United States is different from the context of the people inside the United States. The context of one political party compared to the context of another political party is also different. If you wish to forge trust and healthy, strong relationships and have great communication, Understand the context of others without judging. And remember, it doesn't necessarily mean you agree. You're just seeking to understand, which again is empathy.